It is great to be here at University of Nebraska Lincoln with a whole host of folks from around the Heartland region to announce the Heartland Regional Food Business Center led by University of Nebraska, led by Rural Prosperity, and really driven by the engine of the partners in the room here. Partners from not just Nebraska, but Iowa, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and then as well as tribal and indigenous cultures as well, and coalitions. I think this energy here is exciting. We just had a roundtable with the partners in the room to hear about the different pieces that folks will be doing. The regional food business centers are a key part of the work that we're doing at USDA to transform the food system, so that we have a food system that is more resilient, that we have a food system that can really withstand shocks like we've experienced with COVID, with the war on Ukraine, and with other different shocks that we have in the food system, to really strengthen local and regional markets, to provide more new and better markets for producers, to provide more nutritious food for consumers and for consumers in the communities in which the food is being grown, and then to strengthen rural communities, strengthen rural economies, strengthen rural job growth, and to make sure that more of that food dollar is coming back to local producers and back to the family farm, so that farmers can continue to grow and prosper, and do the great things that they love to do, which is to produce really healthy food for their regions. So the regional food business centers, the Heartland Regional Food Business Center here is an important part of that work. We have many different programs at USDA that touch on local and regional food systems, that touch on a farmer's ability to access more new and better markets. And the regional food business centers are really going to be they're really going to be that place where producers can go to access one-on-one technical assistance. I like to call them navigators to navigate the food system. The food system is very much that. It's a system. It's complex. And for producers to be able to bring an idea bring a concept from idea to fruition, and to be able to receive that support from the partners in this room and the many partners that are not even in this room who are part of and are already established and trusted by producers in their regions, in their communities, to be able to access technical assistance, access the funds that we have across the board at USDA. So they'll not only be able to help with things like business technical assistance, but they're also going to be able to make sure that the producers have access to grants and loans that USDA has to offer. And then finally, the regional food business centers are going to have business builder awards themselves. So awards that they can hand out to the incubators, the food businesses that are coming into the door, that need this X piece of equipment, whether it's packaging or processing or getting product to market. All of those different things, will be able to administer those awards as well. The Heartland Regional Food Business Center is one of 12 regional food business centers across the country, and we're really proud and happy to be partnering with University of Nebraska at Lincoln to establish this Heartland Regional Food Business Center this month. This is very exciting for us. We know that the partners that are here in this room, trusted local organizations and producers, the great producers we have across the country, bringing those together along with the resources that are made available through regional food business centers is the recipe for success. It's the recipe to bring prosperity to our farmers and ranchers. It's the recipe to bring prosperity for our communities and healthy communities. So we're very thrilled to have that. At the same time, we also talked about a new program that we've also established at USDA called the Resilient Food System Infrastructure Fund. The Resilient Food System Infrastructure Fund is a partnership that USDA is establishing with state departments of agriculture to be able to also provide funding for what we call the middle of the food supply chain. So all of the different components that happen getting product from farm to fork. So that whether that is distribution, whether that is aggregation, whether that is processing, those different capital needs that farmers have to get their product from farm all the way to the restaurant, to the grocery store, to a hospital, to schools, all of those different components. That also will really be a component that will, I think, dovetail very nicely with the regional food business centers. So without further ado, I'm going to along to Mary with University of Nebraska at Lincoln. I just want to again say thank you. As we put this call for proposals out last year, asking for regions to come together, to form partnerships, to look at and identify solutions and challenges, and propose to us what they envision for their regional food business centers. And as we analyzed and looked at and evaluated the applications that came in, we received incredible applications. So I'm really thrilled to be here at University of Nebraska Lincoln again to celebrate and award them the Heartland Regional Food Business Center. And I'll pass it along to Mary to talk more about that.
Thank you, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Mary Emery. I'm the Director of Rural Prosperity Nebraska. Rural Prosperity Nebraska is a hub at UNL that works to bring research and education and the other resources of the university to bear in service of rural and urban community and economic development. So for our part of the Business Center grant, we will be working with our Nebraska colleagues, because we have many people active in this field, to build out our Nebraska system, to learn from each other, to take advantage of the best practices, to improve access to service providers and resources, and also to identify the gaps in the system and try to find ways to fill them. In addition to that, UNL's role is around the basic asset mapping gap analysis we'll be doing across the region, and then we'll be kind of working with University of Missouri on the data hub for the reporting purposes and for helping us learn from our own work about what we're doing well and where we need to do more and better. And we have some wonderful partners that are going to help us with us. The co-director for the Heartland Food Business Center is Katie Nixon.
Hello, I'm Katie Nixon. I work for New Growth Community Development Corporation. We're down in west central Missouri, but we cover a region across Kansas and Missouri. We have a women's business center where we do micro-lending and microfinancing. I'm the food systems director. I am also a farmer. And so when we heard about the opportunity to help farmers through the rural regional food business centers, we said, yes, count me in, and who else is coming to the table? So we put a broad blanket out, and the partners behind you here came to the table with full cooperation, intention to help our farmers and help our food system along. So a long process of getting that proposal together. That was a feat in itself. Started in October. We got the proposal in January. UNL came in and they just really got us to the finish line all together, getting the proposal and all the paperwork. And I know the paperwork was a big task as well, especially the back and forth now, getting all the contracts in place. But we have 13 key partners across our 5 states. And then each one of those partners has a partner. And so we have 32 organizations all working together across our 5 states to really elevate our food system and help our farmers. So I think this is a really exciting opportunity for our whole region, and really also excited about the relationships that we'll be able to develop through this project.
Yeah, Mike Boehm, Vice Chancellor for the Institute of Ag and Natural Resources here at the University of Nebraska and Vice President for the University of Nebraska system for the same. I just want to say congratulations to Katie and to Mary as the co-directors, but also to those 32 partners and the 13 that are represented here today. It really does take a village, there's no question about it, and appreciate the graciousness and generosity from our partners to have not just a land grant, but 5 land grant universities and another 5 to 7 land grant colleges when we think about this region, the Heartland. I think one of the things that the Heartland does incredibly well, and I'm proud as a Nebraskan, that we wake up every day thinking about integrated systems. Complicated, integrated systems at the center of which are people. And the Heartland region I'll put my money on this coalition. I think it's great that we have 12 regional food business centers, but in the Heartland, we are about people and we're about access. We're about making sure that we're doing everything we can, and the land-grant universities and colleges that are a part of this just share that ethos. Undersecretary, thank you for being here, and I think we're open for questions is what I'd say. And I'll pass the mic that way.
Yeah.
Why Lincoln, University of Nebraska, Lincoln, and what are the other 5 states that you mentioned that are a part of the group?
Yeah, so I mean, why University of Nebraska Lincoln? I think the two of you could probably answer. What I will say is what we did last year was we invited proposals. We invited regions to form themselves and tell us what they needed. And so we received applications from folks around the country. We had $400 million available for the regional food business centers. We received over $1.8 billion in application requests. As far as why University of Nebraska Lincoln was selected, the region that they developed, the partnerships that they formed, all of the different things that we had in our criteria, their capacity to be able to do the work, and their long-standing relationship between everyone, all of the partners that are there, of course, as well as the 2 co-leads, were key pieces in why they were selected. They have long-standing relationships. They've been working in this system for a while. They have the ability and the capacity, and with this investment, I really think they're going to fly and do great things here in the Heartland region. As far as what that Heartland region is, that includes, of course, Nebraska, that includes Missouri, that includes Iowa, that includes Kansas, and that includes Oklahoma. Anything else?
How does this food center, business center fit into the overall picture of the supply chain and applying to USDA's investments that we've seen over the last few years of securing and strengthening the supply chain?
I think they are a cornerstone. They are really the linchpin in access for a lot of those programs that we've talked about. We talked with the group earlier. We have many different programs at USDA. We have over 60 different programs that touch on the local and regional food systems, that touch on building and strengthening food systems. Many have received additional funding through the American Rescue Plan and other dollars, and many have been created, like the regional food business centers, because there was a need and a gap there when we did a gap assessment a couple years ago when that first funding was there. So we have things like local meat processing. We have meat and poultry processing expansion programs. We have a new resilient food system infrastructure program that is going to be doing processing, distribution, and aggregation, that middle of the supply chain infrastructure funding through to state departments of agriculture. We also have programs like Farm to School and local procurement, local farms, local food procurement programs, and local foods for schools program. All of these pieces fit really important needs, and I think the regional food business centers are going to be the hub of the activity, so that when a producer walks in the door, I know this as someone who was a farmer myself, you're busy growing your crop, you're busy running your operation, not knowing the different resources that could be available or the different opportunities for new supply chains, new markets that you can access. And so the regional food business centers will be that know-how and those expertise who are connected at a local level with USDA and connected at a local level with producers.
Why is this something just now being implemented? What took so long?
Well, it requires funding, and so thanks to funding that happened 2 years ago, and so there are a few different funding pots. There was the CARES funding, there's the American Rescue Plan, there's the Consolidated Appropriations Act, a variety of funding sources that really charged USDA, and it's particularly through the American Rescue Plan. Congress told USDA, here is $4 billion, go fix the food system. No problem. And so part of that, the first thing we did was say, okay, folks who are working across the country in the food system, tell us what's needed. And one of the things we heard very loud and clear is that we need regional food business centers. We need a place for farmers to be able to go to access information and to be able to have technical assistance to figure out, how do I develop a business plan? What are my packaging or labeling needs? All of those different questions people have in order to get their product onto a store shelf. So it took some time to develop the regional food business centers, and then of course it will continue to take time to really stand up these business centers, but I know the business centers are committed to working very fast, but it really took that money from Congress and the impetus from Congress to say, go forth and figure this out.
I think I'd add, and the Undersecretary mentioned this at the roundtable, I mean, there were two huge triggers, right? COVID, a global pandemic, that we had a chance to see this amazing food system in America that really is part of a global food system, but we saw the fragility. It was exposed. Here in the Heartland, we had producers, livestock producers, for example, that were facing euthanizing animals. On a grand scale. We saw the importance of our small meat lockers, our processors. Here in Nebraska, we often think about, being the beef state and the red meat capital of the U.S., but we have 80 small and very small meat processors. And so I think that exposure of that fragility of our system. I think the second thing I would say is that the war in the Ukraine on a global scale really pointed at the fragility of food sovereignty, food security, which punctuated this. And then the last thing I would say is that when we talk about farmers, we're talking all in, farmers, ranchers, we're talking about large producers, we're talking about small family-owned operations, we're talking about urban and rural producers. Those that are part of cooperative food systems, those that engage with consumers directly, those that engage through farmers markets, with our schools, and those that literally feed the world through, whether it's the Gulf or the Pacific Northwest from the Heartland. So broadly read, I think those would be three things I'd add.
Yeah, thank you. That impetus for why we were charged with Congress, absolutely.
What would you say was your number one key takeaway from this roundtable discussion today?
Oh, number one? I think the people around the table, the team that has been formed is, and I heard this as in the opening, it is the puzzle piece. The team has every different type of unique experience reaching into different communities. So a diverse team, a team with expertise, a team who is known and established and working in this space. So it's really the people who are going to make this happen. And so that, I think, is the one thing that I heard over and over is the people.
We could bring that team up here if you need a picture.
Yeah.
What are ways that this is going to directly impact regular consumers in this region?
Great question. Right? So this is about more new and better markets for producers, and it's about more new and better markets for consumers. So consumers will be able to see product on their store shelf that is grown by producers in their community, grown by producers in their state, grown by producers in this region, that wouldn't have otherwise been able to be grown and met into that local system, because there are different challenges that they might have faced along the way to get their product from their farm to the store shelf. So I think for consumers, they're going to have more access to more product. They're going to be able to have more choice in the marketplace, and they're going to have really great, healthy, nutritious food that is grown by their community. And they'll know that when they're buying that food, they're really buying also the economic drivers that are happening throughout rural Nebraska, throughout the rural Heartland region.
I think more and more consumers don't realize that a lot of what they see on the shelf has been decided by the companies that produce that. It's not necessarily the demand, it's about what is the most efficient and effective for that company to get that food into the grocery store. So I think what consumers will see as a result of our helping some of the smaller to medium-sized businesses is that their choice, like you said, will be expanded, and they will have access to more local food, but they'll also hopefully get exposed to things that are regionally sourced and seasonally sourced as well. And they'll get the best of the freshness from that particular part of the season, and we can all enjoy the bounty that we produce in this country.